Burnout happens when you focus on the fire instead of the oil. You focus on keeping the flame lit instead of keeping oil in the lamp. And oil comes from the Lord. So the reason why you're burnt out, or the reason why you can't keep the flame lit, is because your attention has gone to what you're doing, and it's no longer focused on who you're doing it for. Because when you seek the Lord, He'll fill your lamp.
Welcome to the Leading Second Podcast, a space to help church leaders thrive in the second chair. The Leading Second Podcast releases every Thursday morning, so hit subscribe and share this with your team. Now let's jump into another episode for all of us who lead from the middle. Hello and welcome to the Leading Second Podcast. I'm so glad you've joined us in this space today. If you lead from the middle in any capacity, Leading Second is for you. And if you find the episode helpful today, I'd encourage you to visit leadingsecond.com/podcast because there's a downloadable episode guide that we've created for today's episode. Feel free to use it with your team if that would be helpful, or use it for your own notes. And also, we'd be so thankful if you would help us make some noise about the podcast by sharing it with your team or posting it online, leaving ratings and reviews. It all helps to share the message and help move Leading Second forward. So today, we have our Leading Second coaches jumping on the podcast. I'm so ready for it. So let's jump into the interview.
Well, I want to welcome to the podcast today some of our coaching team with Leading Second. I am so glad to have you all here. Say what's up to everybody. Dillon, why don't you get the party started?
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Dillon, Ritchie over here, or I should say down here in sunny Venice, Florida. So my weather right now is something you all dream and wish that you had.
Don't rub it in. I don't want to talk about it.
But I get the opportunity to be the operations executive at CoastLIfe Church under Pastor Jason and Heidi Warman, and incredible people, and proud to be a
brilliant church. Y'all don't brag on yourselves enough. Brilliant church. I'm glad you're on here today. My friend, next is the wonderful, the amazing Kelly Goff, who just had a birthday this week.
Hey. Hey, everybody. Yes, I'm Kelly Goff. I am out here in Phoenix, Arizona, where in the end of April, beginning of May, it's already in the 90s. And I get to
We're going to do this today, huh?
Yeah, we're doing it. We're going in. I am a location pastor at the Rock Church under the most amazing pastors Kevin and Melissa Goff.
Awesome. Welcome. And last but not least, our British friend who lives in Canada and works at an Australian church, Jon Hatto.
Oh, yeah. Hey, what's going on, guys? Yeah, so I'm Jon Hatto. I am part of the team at Hillsong Church in Toronto. Serving under our Canada lead pastors, Damien and Julie Bassett. And my wife and I lead a campus. I oversee people development and discipleship and all kinds of good things. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Glad you're here. We're going to give you all the tough questions, mainly because you sound the smartest.
I don't know about
that. The accent makes everything better, Jon. So we're doing that today. Hey, I'm so glad y'all are joining us. And today is a fun day for us at Leading Second. It's the kind of the kickoff, the launch of our next round of coaching groups. We have opened information and applications for our intake for our coaching groups program this fall. We just so believe in that program and what God has done through it, how God has strengthened churches and leaders through it. So I would encourage anyone listening to apply. These three are on our team of coaches, and we're so proud of this team. And today, what we thought we would do is just have a conversation and answer your questions. Every question that we're going to go over today has been asked by our tribe, either on Instagram or at an event. These are just things that come our way. We figured we'd have some fun today and cover a whole bunch of ground. In fact, I think this is going to really center on just being intentional in leadership development and stretching and growing your capacity. And I'm actually going to start there today with each of you. Give us a quick snapshot on what each of you are doing today to intentionally grow and stretch your capacity as leaders. I think one of the things we talk about in coaching groups is being intentional and having one thing we're working on. So what would y'all say is your thing right now?
I'll go first. Mine is actually my fitness. So I started running in July of last year, and so I'm coming up on a year of running.
Come on, somebody.
And yeah, it's pretty wild. My pastor is a crazy good runner, very fast. He's 10 years older than me, and I feel ashamed to not be able to keep up with him on a 10K run. So that's my goal, is to just get faster running.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I would say for me, similar, just my daily discipline, staying on top of that as schedules change. And our schedule in our house never is really the same. And I thrive on a schedule. So making sure that no matter what the day looks like, that I'm staying on top of my Bible time, my prayer time, my workout time, the things that make me better in every way, staying on top of that every single day. So I would say that's for me right now.
I think you just nailed it when you come to schedules changing. That is the worst when you're trying to carve out discipline and one day looks different than the next, and y'all are in a busy season of life, as really all of us are. Don't you think, Kelly, it's about the ability to get back on track when a day throws you off? I don't think my struggle is with discipline. I think my struggle is getting back when it's been interrupted. You know, that quick return.
Yeah, because it's so easy to go, oh, well, today didn't look like tomorrow, so skip it. You know, like it's really easy to just punt the ball and start over in a month, you know, and that's what happens. We get off track. So yeah, that's definitely been my biggest, like, I'm just going to commit to this, even if it's at a different time than what I like it to be.
Brilliant.
John, I'm cheering you on down here in Florida. I recently took up running too, and I told my wife that I was going to run the Miami Marathon. So now my entire church knows that I'm going to run the Miami Marathon. The problem with that is now I have to run the Miami Marathon. So maybe we can encourage each other.
So we've been talking about doing a marathon in October, which October here is decent weather. I don't really want to run a marathon in Florida. I feel like that would just be literally running in hell on earth. Like, it's just crazy hot.
I think, the point of this conversation today is intentionality. And I was joking with the guys before we started today. I mean, it can be as simple as flossing your teeth. But there is something about intentionality that moves us forward. And we're going to look at the diamond of leadership development today and stretching and growing our capacity through your questions. And let's dive into some of these and just cover a bunch of ground today. These are questions our tribe is asking. We have this question come in. It said this: do intentional capacity growers, I didn't know that was a title, by the way. That's brilliant. Do intentional capacity growers ultimately outgrow their stagnant teams, or is there a way to bring them along? I thought that was interesting. Dillon, why don't we start with you on that one?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the thoughts I should say I've been wrestling with in this season is, what if my greatest contribution to the ministry is not a what, but a who? And when we talk about teams and we talk about stagnant teams, and if I'm growing beyond my team, I feel like I've gotten distracted about what's most important. I feel like my role as a leader is to make sure that I'm bringing the team along on the journey. And if I feel like the team is falling behind, then sometimes I feel like, or most of the time I feel like, maybe it's my responsibility to slow down a little bit. Maybe they've lost the vision. Maybe they've lost direction. Maybe they've lost energy. And any of those I can provide as their leader to make sure that they can get back on pace and we can continue to run together, because I don't want to go anywhere if they're not coming with me.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
I think that's well said, Dillon. And I think we have to remember the purpose of leadership. It's not about us.
Yeah.
It's about others. And I think you nailed it, keeping our eyes on what's most important. Let's talk about this. We had a question come in about contentment. And I don't know about you all. I struggle with this at times in my life, with my personality. But this question came in: how do you balance the tension of being content with where you are, but not being willing to stay there? Being content, but not willing to stay there. What does that look like to you, Kelly?
Yeah, that's something that I've actually been thinking on recently for myself, because I always we always have I want to get to the next place. I want to get to what God has next. And I know God's doing something. What is it? And I know for me, I can have a tendency to really miss what's happening right now.
Yes.
Because I'm looking ahead to like and I heard years back, we have to be a face down, face up leader. That like it's vitally important that our heads are down looking at what is happening right in front of us while also keeping our heads up to what is coming. And I think in that, if we remember, Paul said, I've learned to be content in all things, with all of the things, without all of the things. And I've been going over that scripture just in my own heart recently to say, like, I'm totally open and ready for what God has next. I'm also not going to let that allow me to miss what's happening right now. Because even if I don't like particularly where I'm at right now, this season of ministry for us has been a little different as a location pastor, stepping also back into youth ministry. I wouldn't, like, as much as I love youth ministry, I'm like, when's the next youth pastor coming? But I can also miss what God is doing in and through. Like, so I think for me, I'm just remembering that God uses it all. And so even if you find yourself in a season where like, I don't really like this and I just want to get to what's next, but what is God doing in this? Because even if we don't like it in our flesh, God is doing something. He's using it and he'll redeem it and use it for good if we're paying, but are we missing it? So I don't want to miss that. I want to pay attention. And so that's helped me be more content in those moments.
Yeah, it's interesting actually thinking about, the first question and what Dillon said, and then obviously what you've just been saying about, being content. And I think one of the things I've learned is that sometimes actually being in the season we're in is about bringing people with us. Like sometimes we're so quick to try and move on, to try to get to the next thing. And actually part of it is maybe us needing to be slowed down a little bit. The circumstances slow us down a little bit. God slows us down a little bit so that we can be bringing other people along. I've just noticed, and it's interesting that you say you've kind of been dropped back into youth ministry. My wife and I are in that same situation as well. And so now it's an opportunity for us to even be thinking, okay, yeah, who are those people that maybe we would have missed the first time around, to actually then bring them on the journey with us, to be intentional and actually growing their capacities, seeing them take up the opportunities to lead alongside us.
I don't know about you all. I am wired very strategically, very future forward. So I know not everybody is wired that way. I'm sure there's others out there wired that way. I notice for me, I have to create things that jog me to get back into the present. First of all, I have a list I look through often of some of the most, important relationships or spheres of relationships to me, and pray through that list. It's something that grounds me because I love to wake up and dream about stuff happening in 2 years. That's my jam all day long. But how do I consider the needs of people around me today? I think that has helped me with contentment to see God at work today, because I can get really future oriented and can get really strategic and live out there. And then I look around and go, man, that's going to be so awesome when we get there. Where are we at today? So it's something that helps ground me, I guess. Maybe those struggling with contentment, we need something that grounds us in today, to be thankful for, to pray for, to see the needs that we can respond to today. Some people, I think, wake up naturally and see that. I do not. So I have to actually intentionally ground myself to not live in just visionary land all the time.
Hey, it's Clark here from the Leading Second team, and I wanted to let you know that coaching group applications are now open. If you're unfamiliar, coaching groups is a 12-month leadership development journey. You're going to be equipped with tools to become the leader your team needs, and you'll find community with other second chair leaders so that you can thrive in your ministry. Our commitment is to walk with you on this journey to help you become the leader you've always wanted to be and have the community you've prayed for. To apply, go to leadingsecond.com/coaching-groups.
Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. We had this question come in. It says this: my pastor has shared that in order for me to succeed as a leader, he needs me to not just want to win and accomplish goals and carry out the vision, but he needs me to be a more likable person. This is going to be an interesting one. I want to hear what you guys have to say. So they were basically saying, like, I want to grow. How do I become a more likable person? And gosh, I think I want to hold my thoughts and hear what you guys have to say. But to me, this is an interesting dynamic of leadership. Obviously, people have to want to follow us as leaders. That is an important part of leadership and influence. What would y'all say about the likability factor?
I just had this conversation not that long ago. I think we have to remember we are in the business, for lack of a better word, of people.
That's right.
And we have to, I think it's really easy to sit back and say, well, this is just who I am. This is just my personality. And that's such a cop-out because our personality is like, first of all, we have to flesh everything through the lens of the word, so my personality can be really lower based, fleshly sometimes, and so when we're dealing with people and we want people to follow us, we want people to see Jesus in us. We have to go straight to that. We can't just go, oh, well, I'm just blunt. It's the way I am. Or, oh, I'm just straightforward. No, we have to filter that through what does the word say? How can we change? It doesn't mean that we change what we need to say, but we might change how we need to say it.
Yes.
And I've also learned that it's also a great leadership tool to know your audience, read the room, know who you're talking to. I know that I can say certain things to one team coach that we have in a way that I could never say it to another team coach. And so learning those different aspects of how you communicate to people go a long way in being likable, because it shows that you care about who you're talking to. But I just think, to just go, well, that's just who I am. That's never gonna get us very far. And being likable is not just the words we say, it's the tone we say it, it's the facial expressions. I remember really quick being on staff years back, and my pastor sent me a text and he said, you need to tell your face that it's saved right now, because my face just showed everything. And it was a reminder to me of oh, people are reading my face long before they're hearing the words that I'm saying. So it all of that goes into it.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because you started us off at the right place. The ways of the kingdom are always going to work. They're going to work in every moment. They're going to work in every situation. So we start with the word. We start with the kingdom of God. But let me ask you this. What makes someone likable? I think we should talk about this. What makes someone likable? I'll be honest. I really enjoyed watching Simon Cowell on American Idol. I would want to follow him. I would want to, if that was my industry, I would want his input. I didn't consider him particularly nice. So consider that dynamic. Are we talking about niceness here, or what are we talking about when it talks about kind of the likability, credibility factor that we have with people?
I think that's such a good point, because I think even when you read through the Gospels, Jesus said some things that people probably didn't think were
100%.
likable. I think the spirit in the way that we say things, because I agree with you, I would follow Simon Cowell all day. Tell me it's terrible, please.
Exactly.
So I think it's the spirit in which we deliver things. It's how that people know they can trust us. People know that we're going to be dependable. We're going to be stable. We're that they can lean into us because we're going to be consistent. I think that's a large part of it, that it's not about that you're always going to tell them nice things, because that's how we grow. But that they know that they can come to us and they're going to hear the truth in love, that we're going to walk beside them with kindness. We can say the truth and still be very kind. So I think there's a level of they want to know that we can be consistent in their life and love them through those hard seasons and celebrate with them in the great seasons.
The second chair, in my opinion, is prone to people pleasing. And we can get so into man pleasing when it comes to maybe our pastor. Also, we want to put points on the board for the church, for pastors, so we can get into people pleasing with those that we lead. And I just think we need to disconnect when we talk about likability. We need to disconnect being nice or always telling somebody what they want to hear or whatever from the ability of people wanting to follow us and able to follow us. I think you just nailed it with having the right spirit. But I think this is a really interesting leadership dynamic that sometimes the tough leaders are the ones people want to follow. And I think you just nailed it because it's the spirit behind it. People know, I want to get you somewhere. I am for you. I am with you. I want to help you make progress. And to do that, we're going to have a tough conversation here. That kind of a thing. I don't know if you guys have any more to say about that, but to me, this is just a misnomer that we have to be the most popular person in the room to be the leader or something like that.
Yeah, it's the age-old saying, right? Like people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you can show that you care about somebody, it opens up the opportunity to even have hard conversations. Even talk to people about the things that maybe they don't want to talk about, but they'll receive it from you because they first understood that you care about them. Simon Cowell was there to coach people to greatness. Simon Cowell was there to get people to fame, get people to notoriety, get people to a music contract. So he was able to say the hard thing because at the end of the day, he was adding value to people's lives. And I think as leaders, we need to understand that one of the most important things that we do in the church or just in life is we add value to people. And that our title and our role doesn't qualify us. But our actions, our behavior, our consistency, and our faithfulness is what qualifies us. And that's how we have access to people.
Beautiful. So we had another question come in, switching gears a bit, talking about burnout on this question. This person said, right now, just honestly, I'm burnt out with trying to lead when it feels like I'm dragging my team behind me. So just pausing, this person is linking the burnout feeling that they have with the struggle it is to bring people along. So that seems to be a link this particular question is drawing. This person goes on to say, how do you keep going and push past burnout feeling? What would y'all say to that question today?
I would actually say there are probably two different things going on here. I think the burnout dynamic is an internal, it's a personal, if you're using that word burnout, your soul is at a point where you are exhausted, you feel like you don't have what it takes to keep going, to keep moving forward. And I think it doesn't matter what kind of scenario, what kind of situation you are in, that's going to show up in some way or another. The reality is if you're dealing with a team that's lacking momentum, it's just going to show up sooner. I would say, I'm sure we've all been through seasons where we've carried a team or we've led a team, and even if it's had momentum, eventually the stretch of a season is going to get to you, right? Like even if a team has momentum and it's moving quickly,
yep,
right, the burnout's going to hit you in a different way. So I think the burnout conversation is probably one you need to be having with your pastor. You need to be having with your team leader. You need to say, hey, there's some flags going on in my own soul here. This is what it looks like, and kind of get some input from a mature leader in your life that can either help you put some healthy boundaries in place or, even clarify, like, is it burnout? I think that's a really great question to ask. Well, is this actually burnout, or am I just not in my lane? Like there's a few different dynamics going on in that conversation, I think.
Brilliant.
I heard this one recently and it was a good one. I wish it was me, but I can't take credit for it. And it's that burnout happens when you focus on the fire instead of the oil. You focus on keeping the flame lit instead of keeping oil in the lamp. And oil comes from the Lord. So the reason why you're burnt out, or the reason why you can't keep the flame lit, is because your attention has gone to what you're doing, and it's no longer focused on who you're doing it for. Because when you focus on the Lord and you seek the Lord, He'll fill your lamp.
Beautiful. Well said, my
So
friend.
good.
Here's an interesting question we got. We might end up ending with this one, but we actually had two questions come in. One person asked me recently, can I lead second as a volunteer? Which absolutely, let me just say this unequivocally. We use leading second as a phrase or a mandate for those of us who serve in church life. If you lead from the middle in any way, shape, or form, we call that leading second. We are not just talking about the campus pastor or the executive pastor of the church or something like that. Certainly those people do and are chief among us in some ways, but I had the same heart leading second, so to speak, when I was an intern doing all the grunt work around the church all those years ago. It felt the same as it has in moments of executive leadership. So I just want to say that, first of all, absolutely. But I don't know why a paycheck qualifies us to carry the vision of the church and move the church forward. Absolutely not. We see leading second as being anyone on the team can take that on. So I just wanted to clarify that, first of all. But here's this question. This person just asked for advice in doing bivocational ministry in a second chair position. So many people across the world are bivocational in ministry. The motto of our volunteer staff at my home church for years was, we work for the church, we just get paid somewhere else, And quite frankly, being paid in ministry is really a minority of leaders and believers in the kingdom of God in the world. Many more around the world do for free what some of us in some contexts are compensated to do. So just advice. What would you all say to the person who wants to lead second? They want to hold their pastor's arms up, but they're doing it bivocationally.
I mean, I would say just, give it all you've got. I think most of at our church, we are a small staff. We have 3 locations and we have 6 staff members. That doesn't include our lead pastors. And so we are large in part team-based, like volunteer-based, large in part, like across all locations. And our pastor did that on purpose because there's people that want to serve. There's people that want to be a part. And so I would say, if you're bivocational, go for it. I think communication is really vital in anything, but I think in this format, like, you have to be very open on what you can do and the time that you do have, because it isn't your full-time job, but you want to be all in and you want to lead second in that capacity. So communication is key, to say, be very upfront. And if there is a moment where it's like, whoa, I can't do that you're very vocal to say, I want to do that, but it's just not the right season. I can't do that right now, but this is what I can do. Because I think, we always say, can you give an hour a week? Awesome, we'll take it. We're never going to say, I don't think there's a church in America that will say, no, we don't want your hour that you want to give. So there's never too little. But there's always, the communication has to be there that says, this is what I can do, and I'm willing to do it, and then give it all you've got.
Yep.
Yeah, Pastor Brandon, at the end of the day, I think we can all agree here that we don't do this for money.
Right.
And my pastor said it recently. He said, if you won't do it for free, you won't do it when you get paid. That'll only last so long.
Yeah.
And I'd rather see somebody do it at a volunteer level before they ever get paid for it, because it's fulfillment that fuels us as ministers. And fulfillment can come when you're getting paid, and fulfillment comes when you're not. It's because you feel a passion for it, you feel called to it, and that's what will keep you going. So I know that it's a challenge at times for time management wise when you're bivocational, and I don't want to overlook that. But if you're saying that the only way you can do ministry well is if you're on staff full time at a church, I would tell you that there's a volunteer somewhere in America that can tell you it's possible.
I was in full-time paid ministry for 10 years, and I have been volunteer staff or leader at my home church for 12 years now. And so I've now done that longer than, I ever was full-time church staff. I do understand that my day job, leading second, is ministry. I do understand it's an imperfect analogy, but not at my church. Anything I've done the last 12 years has been volunteer. And you're exactly right. It takes communication. It takes rhythm. I think it takes understanding the nature of where the rub is for you. Some people's rub is just capacity. You maybe have young kids, you've got a career, you're trying to carve out leadership role at church. It just takes incredible attention to schedule and rhythm. I think some people's rub is they would like their volunteering to turn into a paid staff role. And maybe we need to do a whole episode on that sometime, because I think you got to be real careful about unmet expectations there and having a pure offering when it comes to your contribution to the church. That make your offering pure. That if you're going to volunteer. Don't volunteer with an agenda or volunteer with a motive, or volunteer just because I think it's going to get me somewhere. If it does, great, but make your offering pure to the church. And I think one way too that we do that is we keep our commitments finite. I would recommend to volunteers at high levels, I would recommend you do it for finite periods of time. Do it for a year. Do it for 6 months. In other words, review it at some point to make sure it's still working for you and for the church. I can go all in for 12 months. I don't know if I can, if an all-in commitment, going crazy, like, am I going to do that till Jesus returns or till I die, or, but doing it, I can do it for 12 months. And I think there's something that can keep us healthy about finite commitments and a place to review, a place to readjust. Life might change in that time. That might be a couple pieces of quick wisdom for someone battling the bivocational thing. Let me just ask each of you this to land the plane. What is this is just quick answers on this. What is the biggest capacity gap that you have seen and experienced in your life the last couple of years, and what did you have to intentionally do to close that gap? What was a gap that you experienced, and how did you intentionally approach closing that gap?
Yeah, Pastor Brendan, we as a church, we're going to places now that none of us have ever been. And I found myself waiting till we got there to learn how to do it. And the way that I'm closing the gap in this season is I'm getting around people and I'm having conversations with people. That's what I love about coaching groups.
Yeah.
There's a group of leaders, there's a group of church leaders in this country who have said, I'm not waiting until I get somewhere to get around people who can help me when I get there. I'm going to get around people who are already there and are already where I'm going.
Yeah.
So that when I get there, I'm prepared for it. And that's the same effort that I'm putting in now, is I'm getting around people that are bigger than me and just saying, what are you doing in that place that we're headed? Because I need to be ready when we get there.
Beautiful. I got a call early this year or a DM actually from a leader. He just said, hey, I'd love to connect sometime. We connected, and he said this to me, Dillon. He said, I have a list put together of 12 people I want to connect with this year. He's like, you were one of them. And I'm just reaching out to one a month, just figuring I'm gonna grow my circle a little bit. And I don't know where that relationship will go. He might be my new best friend. You never know. Or it might just be someone, we casually encourage each other, along the way. But don't you just love the intentionality? I'm gonna do one a month. And I'm just going to get in different circles or get in different spaces, or like you said, join a coaching group, or, I loved the rhythm and the intentionality behind that thought. Kelly?
Yeah, no, my answer is similar. I think, in being a part of this coaching team, it has opened up new relationships for me of people that I can call who have been where I haven't been. And I think in what I do, and also in personal ways as a mom, as a wife, in different, just in all of the different hats that I wear. And so, I've been asking that question because we know like what we did to get us here isn't going to get us there. And so similar in our church, I know there's a new season coming, that God's getting ready blow open some big doors and what that's going to bring. And so making sure that, yeah, exactly what you said, Dillon, not waiting to be ready, not waiting to get ready till I'm there, but having those conversations now, reading the books now, listening to the podcast now, like doing the work on the inside now. And with that, helping our teams do the same thing, so that it's not just me who's ready when we get there, but our teams are ready. You know, it can be easy for teams to almost get lost in that or feel left out in that because they're like, well, we're not there right now, so what does it matter? But to go, well, let's be ready so that when God does bring the growth, we're all there together.
Great.
Moving forward.
Well said. British, Canadian, Australian friend, you get the final word today.
I think the capacity gap for me has been really doing the work, again, internal work, to build emotional resilience. I think coming out of the pandemic and you know, the journey of the last kind of 2 or 3 years of trying to piece some things back together, just becoming very aware of how that undealt with stuff on the inside can actually then affect the new people that are coming in, that God is bringing into our world. And there are people that, you know, they have no history with us, you know, pre-2020. They don't understand how things used to be. They're stepping into a season that God has for them right now. And I just am so committed to being the leader that they need in this season, that I need to be in this season. But that's taken me having to do some really hard work to deal with some of the baggage that has come up from the last couple of years. And I think for a lot of leaders that I've spoken to, it's not necessarily that they have stopped leading, but there are still ripple effects that we're experiencing as leaders, especially in the local church. And I think what can happen is that the capacity we have to love new people coming through the door and build new leaders coming into our world has been tainted by the way that maybe some of our previous leadership relationships have ended, especially those that didn't end the way we hoped they would. And I think we're still kind of feeling the effects of that a little bit. And so I think for me, that's been the capacity gap. It's just closing that, making sure that I'm doing the work so that the new people are not getting the worst of me, they're getting the best of me.
Well said, my friends. I love you all. You are a brilliant part of our tribe and team. Thank you so much for adding some value today to second chair leaders everywhere. And for everyone listening today, we're so glad you were with us today. I pray that this episode finds you well or was a piece of wisdom that you needed for today. We encourage you to head to leadingsecond.com and check out our new intake of coaching groups for this fall. Consider applying. We would love to do life and ministry with you. We just count it an honor to walk with you. So check us out, and we'd love for you to consider that. Leading Second, we love you. Until next time, let's run strong for the kingdom and lead in an uncommon way together. God bless you.
It is our honor to serve churches and leaders across the globe. We equip ministry leaders with the coaching, events, and resources needed to embrace their calling, get it right with their pastor, and lead in an uncommon way. Visit our website, leadingsecond.com, to learn how we can come alongside you as you lead from the middle, from the second chair, for the second chair.